Procrastination is the assassin of greatness, and its weapon is comfort. Stop procrastinating. How to get things done, even when you don't feel like it. If you enjoy these motivational audiobooks I publish here, hit like and subscribe. Also, let me know where you're listening from and the time there in the comments below. It's always cool to see. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. The 15-minute lie that's killing your dreams. I'll just check my email real quick. Let me scroll through social media for a few minutes. I'll start working right after this video. Just 15 more minutes, then I'll get started. Sound familiar? It's 2:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. A freelance writer sits at a cluttered kitchen table, laptop open, but instead of typing, their fingers hover over the keyboard. The deadline? Tomorrow. The work? Still untouched. Instead, they refresh their inbox for the 20th time today. Not because an urgent message is waiting, not because they're expecting a game-changing email, but because starting the real work feels like stepping into a cold shower. Shocking, uncomfortable, and almost impossible. This is procrastination in its rawest form. Not laziness, not lack of skill, not even lack of time. It's the chasm between knowing what needs to be done and actually doing it. The gap between intention and action. The silent assassin where your best plans quietly die. If you're honest with yourself, you've been there. Maybe even right now. Because procrastination isn't just about delaying tasks. It's about the story you tell yourself while doing it. The clever excuses, the comforting lies, the well-rehearsed self-deceptions. I work better under pressure. I just need the right mood. Inspiration will strike any minute. I'll be more energetic tomorrow. Here's the brutal truth. Procrastination isn't a time management problem. It's not a productivity glitch. It's not about being disorganized or lazy. It's an emotional regulation problem. It's your brain's way of dodging uncomfortable feelings. Anxiety about not being good enough. Fear of failure or judgment. Overwhelm about where to begin. Perfectionism that makes every step feel impossible. That writer staring at a blank page? They're not avoiding work. They're avoiding the feeling of uncertainty that their ideas might fall flat. They're sidestepping the vulnerability of putting their work out for judgment. So they check email instead. Because email feels safe. It looks productive without the risk. It's busy work that keeps the fear at bay. This is the procrastination trap, and millions are caught in it right now. The software engineer who's been meaning to refactor their code for weeks. The nurse postponing difficult conversations with colleagues. The chef dreaming of a new menu but hasn't sketched a single dish. The student who organizes notes instead of opening the textbook. They're all fleeing the same enemy, the discomfort of doing something that truly matters. The anxiety of stepping into the unknown. The fear that maybe, just maybe, they won't measure up. Here's what's tragic. What you're avoiding by not starting is almost always less painful than what you create by continuing to avoid it. The stress of drafting a rough outline is nothing compared to the panic of no outline hours before the deadline. The discomfort of confronting a tough conversation is nothing compared to weeks of simmering tension. The anxiety of launching a project is nothing compared to the crushing regret of never finishing. Procrastination doesn't eliminate discomfort. It multiplies it. It takes a manageable dose of unease now and transforms it into an avalanche of stress later. And the worst part? The longer you wait, the steeper the climb becomes. That writer who's avoided their draft for hours? Now there's less time left. More pressure, more anxiety, more reasons to keep avoiding. It's a vicious, self-feeding spiral. Avoidance creates pressure. Pressure breeds anxiety. Anxiety fuels more avoidance. Until you're trapped in a cycle of stress, shame, and self-sabotage. But here's what I want you to hear loud and clear. Procrastination isn't a flaw. It's not laziness or lack of discipline. It's not a sign you don't care. It's a coping mechanism. Your brain's desperate attempt to shield you from emotional pain. Once you understand this, everything changes. You stop fighting yourself. You start working with yourself. You stop demanding motivation and start managing emotions. You stop waiting to feel ready and start moving forward anyway. Because here's what high performers know that procrastinators don't. You don't have to feel ready to start. You don't have to feel motivated to take action. You don't have to feel confident to move forward. You just have to be willing to feel uncomfortable, to sit with the anxiety of uncertainty, to tolerate the vulnerability of taking imperfect steps. The freelance writer who finally opens their document doesn't suddenly feel inspired. They feel nervous, unsure, worried. But they start anyway, not because the feelings vanished, because they decided the feelings don't have to stop them. And then something remarkable happens. The resistance eases. The anxiety softens into focus. The overwhelming task breaks into manageable steps. Not instantly, not perfectly, but gradually. Because action creates momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence makes the next step easier. This is how you shatter the procrastination cycle. Not by waiting for perfect conditions. Not by hoping motivation will strike. But by taking the smallest possible step forward, especially when you don't feel like it. Because that's when it counts most. That's when you prove feelings don't control you. That's when you build resilience. That's when you become someone who gets things done. The just 15 more minutes lie isn't just about lost time. It's about the life you're missing while waiting. The dreams that fade in the space between intention and action. The person you could become if you stopped running from discomfort. But here's the good news. You can change this pattern. You can learn to act despite your feelings. You can develop the skill to start before you're ready. And that's exactly what we'll explore together. Not the myth of perfect motivation, but the reality of imperfect action. Not the fantasy of feeling ready, but the power of moving forward anyway. Because your life is waiting on the other side of resistance. Your goals are waiting beyond your excuses. Your potential lies just past procrastination. The question isn't whether you'll feel like starting. You probably won't. The question is whether you'll start anyway. That choice changes everything, and it's yours, right now. Chapter 2. The perfectionism prison that holds you hostage. The cursor blinks on the empty page. 47 minutes of blinking. A marketing consultant sits frozen at their laptop. Proposal due tomorrow for a major client. They know every detail. The research is done. The outline perfect. But the first sentence? It won't come. What if it's not perfect? What if it doesn't fully capture the vision? What if the client thinks it's mediocre? What if they sound unprofessional? What if they lose the opportunity because their words aren't good enough? So they wait. For the flawless opening line. The brilliant insight that guarantees success. And as they wait, the clock ticks. Pressure mounts. Anxiety tightens its grip. The page stays empty. This is perfectionism. The most polished form of procrastination. It feels like care, like responsibility, like high standards. But beneath that polished surface, it's fear disguised. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of not being enough, fear of being exposed as a fraud. Your brain would rather do nothing than risk doing something imperfect. Here's the truth most miss. Perfectionism isn't about excellence. It's about safety. Excellence says, I'll create something good and improve it. Perfectionism says, I'll wait until it's flawless, or not do it at all. Excellence moves forward. Perfectionism protects itself by standing still. And that protection is destroying your productivity. That consultant staring at a blank page, they're not protecting their reputation. They're burying it. Because a good proposal submitted on time beats a perfect proposal that never sees the light of day. Perfectionism convinces you it's responsibility. It's professionalism. But it's sabotage wearing a suit. Think about your own procrastination. Dig deep. I bet perfectionism is tangled in the roots. The chef endlessly adjusting the recipe, afraid the dish won't be perfect. The novelist rewriting the same paragraph for days instead of finishing the chapter. The nonprofit leader delaying the grant application until every word feels just right. The software developer obsessing over lines of code, missing the launch window. All prisoners of the same lie. Anything less than perfect is failure. But here's the brutal fact. Perfectionism doesn't create better work. It prevents work from being done at all. Excellence requires action, iteration, feedback, real-world testing, learning, growing. You can't edit a blank page. You can't improve what doesn't exist. You can't get feedback on a draft you never write. The moment that consultant types the imperfect first sentence, magic begins. The second flows easier. The third connects naturally. The page starts to fill. Not because they suddenly became perfect, but because they gave themselves permission to be imperfect. Imperfect action beats perfect inaction every time. But perfectionism goes deeper than habits. It's often rooted in early life experiences. Maybe you learned love and approval were conditional on doing things right. That mistakes meant you weren't enough. So you made a deal with yourself. If I can just be perfect, I'll be safe. If I avoid mistakes, I'll be worthy. If I meet impossible standards, I'll finally be enough. But perfectionism is a rigged game. The bar keeps rising. The goalposts keep shifting. Good enough becomes impossible. Meanwhile, life passes by. Opportunities slip away. Projects pile up unfinished. Dreams stay in the planning stage. That nonprofit leader who waits for the perfect grant proposal misses funding deadlines. The designer who never shows early drafts loses client feedback. The activist who hesitates to launch misses the chance to influence change. Perfectionism doesn't shield you from failure. It guarantees it, because the biggest failure is never trying. But here's the breakthrough. Once you recognize perfectionism, you can dismantle it. Step 1. Notice when you're stuck. The thoughts like, I need more research. I'm not ready. It's not good enough yet. These are perfectionism in disguise, when they become reasons to delay forever. Step 2. Understand the real cost. Not just missed deadlines, but lost growth, lost confidence, lost progress. Step 3. Embrace strategic imperfection. Choose to create something good enough to move forward. This isn't lowering standards. It's being smart about where you focus your energy. The designer can pursue excellence in the final logo, but early sketches don't need to be perfect. The consultant writes a solid first draft, then refines it. The nonprofit submits a proposal that's ready, not perfect, on deadline. Most work just needs to be good enough to move forward. Only the final version needs to be flawless. And here's the paradox. Permission to be imperfect early often leads to better final work. Because you get feedback, you iterate, you avoid paralysis by pressure. The consultant revises the draft into excellence. The teacher adjusts lesson plans based on student response. The founder improves their product after launching a good enough MVP. Imperfection becomes the path to excellence, not its enemy. The biggest mindset shift? How you view mistakes. Perfectionists see mistakes as proof of inadequacy. High performers see mistakes as information. A bug in code? Not failure, but data. A messy draft? Not a disaster, but a step forward. A failed pitch? Not a defeat, but feedback. This shift breaks the prison. From, I have to get it right, to, I have to get it started. From, it has to be perfect, to, it has to be done. From what if I fail, to what if I learn. Because here's the real cost of perfectionism. Not just missed projects, not just lost chances, but the person you don't become. Every time you pick perfectionism over progress, you choose fear over growth. Every time you wait for perfect conditions, you miss learning in imperfect ones. Every time you avoid starting because of fear, you guarantee you won't succeed. The perfectionism prison is real, but the door is unlocked. You just have to be willing to walk through it. Even if you don't know exactly where you're going. Even if you stumble. Even if the path isn't perfect. On the other side of perfectionism lies something beautiful. The freedom to create. The joy of completion. The satisfaction of progress. The confidence that comes from doing the hard things. And that is worth more than any perfect project never started. Your imperfect action is waiting. Your good enough is ready to become great. Your messy first draft is the beginning of something amazing. The cursor is still blinking, but now you know what to do. Start typing, even if it's not perfect, especially if it's not perfect, because perfect is the enemy of done, and done is the beginning of everything else. Chapter 3, the momentum secret that ignites success. It's 6:47 a.m. You're staring at your to-do list and it feels like climbing Everest. 17 tasks staring back, each one screaming urgent, each one too massive to start. So you do something nobody talks about. You pick the smallest possible step. Not finish the whole project. Not write the perfect proposal. Just one tiny thing. Open the project file. You open your laptop. You click. 30 seconds later, something shifts. That mountain shrinks. That impossible mess breaks down into clear, manageable steps. Paralysis cracks. Momentum kicks in. Here's the truth. No one tells you. Momentum isn't about motivation. You don't wait to feel ready. You don't wait to be energized or inspired. Momentum creates motivation. You move, and then you feel like moving. The project file opener? That first click unlocks the next step, updating the timeline. That leads to a quick email to a client. Then, a budget check. One small move sparks another. Suddenly, you're not stuck anymore. Momentum is tiny steps stacking up, not giant leaps, not perfect execution, just consistent motion. But most people get stuck here. They think the first step needs to be big. They say, I'll work 2 hours straight, or I'll finish this all today. And when that feels impossible, they freeze. Momentum doesn't care about size, it just cares that you start. The teacher avoiding grading? Don't grade all papers, just open the first one. The entrepreneur avoiding their business plan? Don't write the whole thing, just create the document and type the title. The student avoiding study? Don't master the chapter, just read one paragraph. These micro steps don't seem like much, but they break the spell of inaction. They prove to your brain that movement is possible, that you can start. And here's the kicker. This works especially when you don't feel like it. When you're overwhelmed, exhausted, or stuck, you can still do something tiny. 30 seconds, tops. Your brain can't argue with that. Your perfectionism can't block that. But momentum isn't just about tasks. It's about identity. Every tiny action you take proves something to yourself. You're the kind of person who shows up, who follows through, who gets things done. The graphic designer opening their software every morning, even for 5 minutes, starts seeing themselves as consistent. The writer writing one sentence daily begins to identify as a writer. The entrepreneur taking one small action every day starts feeling like a builder of something real. When your identity shifts, your actions follow naturally. You don't have to push. Showing up becomes automatic. Momentum isn't just about starting. It's about creating a lifestyle of forward movement. Most people live in exhausting cycles, spurts of intense work, then burnout, then avoidance, then guilt, then sprinting again. Momentum breaks that pattern. High performers choose consistency over intensity, sustainable progress over short bursts. A financial advisor who reviews their client list for 15 minutes daily might not see big changes in a day, but over months, their relationships deepen. A teacher prepping 10 minutes every night doesn't feel transformed overnight, but becomes more effective over a semester. An entrepreneur writing one paragraph daily doesn't sprint, but finishes a full plan in months. Small daily actions compound, not because one move is huge, but because the pattern becomes unstoppable. Here's the paradox. When you lower the bar for starting, you often end up doing more than you planned. That project manager who only promised to open the file, suddenly they're working for an hour. The writer who vowed one sentence ends up with a paragraph. The student who agreed to one page reads the whole chapter. Because momentum carries you. Starting is the hardest part. After that, it gets easier. This is Newton's first law. An object at rest stays at rest. An object in motion stays in motion. If you're stuck, every day waiting makes starting harder. Every avoided task strengthens avoidance. Every postponed project makes postponing your default. But build momentum and everything shifts. Each small action makes the next easier. Each completed task makes completion more likely. Moving forward becomes your natural state. Momentum is a choice. You can stay stuck in inertia, or choose to create movement. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need perfect conditions or massive motivation. You just need one tiny step, one micro action, one ridiculously small move. That project manager at their kitchen table didn't wait for inspiration. They didn't wait for hours of free time. They just opened the file. And that changed everything. Because momentum isn't about where you end up. It's about which direction you're heading. It's not about speed. It's about movement. Your momentum is waiting. Your tiny step is ready. Your impossible project is one small move away from possible. The real question isn't, can I finish it all today? It's, can I start something right now? Even if it's tiny, even if it feels insignificant, even if it's not enough. Momentum doesn't judge size, it rewards action. And once you take that first step, everything changes. One tiny step at a time. Chapter 4. The overwhelm trap that turns small tasks into mountains. The email lands in the inbox with a jolt. We need to completely redesign the client presentation by Friday. 3 days to rework 47 slides. Each slide demands research, design, and approval. The client added new requirements no one saw coming. The budget is tight. The timeline is impossible. Panic sets in immediately. This is too much. Where do I even start? There's no way this gets done in time. This is going to be a disaster. So the email is shut down. I'll deal with it later, they tell themselves. Later, when there's more time. Later, when the overwhelm isn't so suffocating. Later, when they can think clearly. But later never comes. Because overwhelm isn't a problem that fades with time. It intensifies. This is the overwhelm trap. One of the biggest reasons people procrastinate, not because they're lazy or don't care, but because their brains literally can't process everything at once. Here's what's happening inside your head when overwhelm hits. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning and decision-making, gets flooded. Imagine trying to run too many apps on an old computer. Everything slows down, glitches, then freezes. When your brain freezes, your body follows. You sit there, stuck. You know you should do something, but you can't decide what. So you do nothing. The marketing director isn't avoiding the presentation out of laziness. Their brain simply can't break it down into manageable steps. The task looks like an impossible mountain, and you can't climb a mountain in one giant leap. Here's the truth most people miss about overwhelm. It's not about the size of the task. It's about clarity, or the lack of it. When you can't see the individual steps, everything feels impossible. When you don't know where to start, you can't start anywhere. When you don't break it down, it stays overwhelming. But once you create clarity, overwhelm begins to dissolve. Not because the work shrinks, because it becomes manageable. This is what I call task archaeology, digging into your massive project to uncover the smaller pieces buried inside. Excavating the specific actions hiding beneath the vague goal. Transforming an impossible mountain into a visible, walkable path. Let me show you how this works. Chapter 5, the resistance code that holds you back and how to crack it. An entrepreneur sits down at their desk with a fresh cup of coffee. They have a plan, clear goals, tasks broken into manageable pieces. Motivation is high. Then resistance hits. Maybe I should check my email first. I wonder what's happening in the news. I should clean the office before starting. Actually, I'm a little hungry. I'll grab a snack. Oh, I forgot to reply to that message. Let me organize these files real quick. 2 hours pass. The main business project remains untouched. Busy? Yes. Productive? Not really. They've done everything except what truly matters. This is resistance in action, the most sophisticated self-sabotage your brain has ever designed. Resistance doesn't feel like procrastination. It feels like productivity, responsibility, taking care of important tasks. But here's the truth. Your brain runs a secret program to keep you away from what matters most. I call it the resistance code. Until you decode it, you'll keep falling for the trap, again and again. Resistance isn't random. It's not laziness or lack of discipline. It's your brain's defense system, protecting you from uncertainty, challenge, and discomfort. The work that matters, the projects that could change your life and business, those trigger your brain's threat detector because they're uncertain, challenging, outside your comfort zone. So your brain launches a subtle counterattack, a campaign of distraction and delay. It doesn't say, "Don't work." It says, "First, let's do these other important things." It doesn't say, "Avoid the hard work." It says, "Start with something easier to build momentum." It doesn't say, "You're not capable." It says, "Not ready yet. Let's prepare more." Resistance uses your own values against you, your desire to be responsible, prepared, and thorough. The entrepreneur spending hours organizing files isn't lazy. They're manipulated by their own brain. The freelancer endlessly researching the perfect marketing strategy isn't a perfectionist. They're hijacked by their commitment to excellence. The side hustler lost in reading business articles isn't unfocused. They're sabotaged by their thirst for knowledge. Resistance hides behind what's good to prevent what's better. Comfort blocking transformation. And the sneakiest part? You feel productive while being unproductive. Responsible while avoiding responsibility. Progressing while standing still. But once you understand the resistance code, you can recognize it and start overriding it. Step 1. Identify resistance thoughts. They sound reasonable, justified, urgent. I should clean first. I need more research. Let me handle emails quickly. I'll wait until I'm in the right mood. Starting with something easier sounds better. Sometimes these are good ideas, but when they appear right before your important work, that's resistance in disguise. Step 2. Notice the pattern. Resistance shows up predictably, just before big tasks, difficult moments, real progress. It's an alarm system. Warning: meaningful work ahead. Initiate distraction protocol. The entrepreneur gets hungry before tackling the hardest parts. The writer remembers errands before sitting down to create. The manager feels the urge to organize right before key proposals. Not coincidence, pattern. And patterns can be broken. Step 3. Build resistance immunity. The ability to notice resistance without obeying it. The entrepreneur feels the email urge, pauses, thinks, "This is resistance. My brain is protecting me from uncertainty." They acknowledge it, but don't obey. "Thanks, resistance. I'm starting my project anyway." This isn't fighting resistance. It's acknowledging and moving forward. Thanking your brain for care, then gently overriding. Resistance adapts, though. Beat one distraction, it mutates. Research distraction. Organization distraction. Preparation distraction. Like a virus mutating to avoid the immune system. That's why willpower alone fails. You have to be smarter. My best strategy? Resistance surfing. Don't fight it or give in. Surf over it. Feel the urge. Don't battle it. Don't surrender. Instead, take one tiny step on your main project. Open the file. Read the first line. Make one small edit. Resistance stays, but you keep moving. The more you surf, the weaker resistance grows. Not because it stops coming, but because it loses control. This builds what psychologists call cognitive flexibility. Noticing your thoughts without being hijacked. The entrepreneur notices the urge to research, acknowledges it, and works anyway. The writer feels distraction, thanks their brain, and creates anyway. They don't suppress resistance. They transcend it, becoming bigger than their mental patterns. Here's the most important truth. Resistance isn't your enemy. It's your protector. Your brain isn't trying to sabotage you. It's trying to keep you safe from discomfort, failure, vulnerability. That protection often helps, avoiding risks, rushing, ignoring duties. The problem? Your brain can't tell real threats from growth opportunities. It treats uncertainty like danger. So it sounds the alarm whenever you approach important work. Not because it's dangerous, but because it's uncertain. Understanding this changes everything. You can have a conversation with your resistance instead of a war. I know you're trying to protect me. Thank you for caring. But this work isn't dangerous. It's just uncertain. And uncertainty is where growth happens. I'm moving forward. I need you to trust me. This isn't just pep talk. It's genuine dialogue with the part of your brain that wants to help, honoring its intention, choosing action anyway. And when you do this, resistance starts to relax. Not immediately, not fully, but gradually. Because you're not fighting, you're working with it. The entrepreneur thanks their brain and starts working anyway, Resistance weakens over time. The writer acknowledges and creates. Urges fade. This is how you break the resistance code, not by cracking a safe, but by learning its language. Not by defeating an enemy, but by partnering with an ally. Resistance isn't the opposite of productivity. It's productivity's overprotective parent. It means well, but it holds you back. Once you work with it instead of against it, everything changes. No more war with your mind, no more self-sabotage. You become someone who can acknowledge resistance and act anyway. Someone who feels distractions pull and chooses focus anyway. Someone who hears avoidance's voice and chooses courage anyway. That's not just productivity, that's freedom. Freedom from mental hijacking, from protective limits, from resistance's grip. Resistance is still there, still protective. But now you're in charge. Now you decide. Growth over safety, progress over protection, action over avoidance. The resistance code is real. But you have the override key. And it's time to use it. Chapter 6. The accountability revolution that crushes procrastination. You're sitting at your kitchen table, laptop open, coffee long cold. A proposal needs to go out tomorrow morning. You've known about it for weeks, had the info for days, but you've been planning to work on it. And somehow, here you are. Panic writing at the last minute. Sound painfully familiar? This is the procrastination trap. You know what to do. You know when it's due. You mean to get it done. But you always end up here, rushing, stressed, settling for less than your best. And you promise yourself you'll never do this again. But those promises, they break so easily. Because the only one you're letting down is yourself, and you're pretty forgiving when it comes to your own excuses. That's why willpower and motivation don't cut it. You need something stronger, something outside yourself. You need accountability. But not the kind that shames or punishes. That kind just adds weight to an already heavy load and makes procrastination worse. Real accountability isn't guilt or pressure. It's building systems and support that make doing the work easier than avoiding it. It's creating an environment where following through is the easiest, most natural choice. Here's the kicker. Humans care deeply about what others think. We keep commitments to others more than promises to ourselves. It's wired into us. Our brains are built for social bonds and group survival. The consultant panic writing at midnight? They'd never treat a client this way. Show up late or unprepared? No chance. But promises to themselves? Those get pushed, postponed, rationalized away. That's why accountability works when it's external and structured right. Most people think accountability means having someone to punish you for failure. That it's about consequences or reporting in. That's supervision, not accountability. And supervision breeds resistance, not commitment. Real accountability makes success inevitable. It turns following through into the path of least resistance. It's about support, celebration, and forward momentum. Here's how it looks in practice. Our consultant notices a pattern. Every proposal late, every deadline a crisis. So they find an accountability partner. Someone who struggles the same way. Instead of checking each other's failures, they do something different. Every week, they commit to 3 specific, clear tasks. Not vague goals, but concrete steps. Finish research for Johnson proposal by Wednesday, 5 p.m. They text each other when tasks are done. Not to confess, but to celebrate. No pressure, just support. And something shifts. The consultant wants to have good news to share. They start early, break big projects into bite-sized wins, and momentum builds. Accountability becomes momentum's fuel. And you don't need someone else for this. You can build systems that hold you accountable even when you're solo. What makes accountability stick? Commitment devices. These are tricks that bind your future self to your present goals, making it harder to bail. The simplest, public declarations. Tell people your goals and you add social pressure, not punishment, but the desire to not be seen as flaky. Like the marketing manager who posts, "This week I'm refreshing my LinkedIn profile." Now they have to follow through, not because of anger or shame, but because their reputation is on the line. Another? Financial stakes. The teacher who hates grading sets up an automatic donation to a cause they hate if they don't finish on time. Suddenly, grading beats losing money. The best? Implementation intentions. If then plans that specify when and where you'll act. Not, I'll work on my presentation this week. But, if it's Tuesday at 9 a.m., then I'll work on the presentation outline for 45 minutes. No decisions to make, just follow the plan. Combine this with accountability partners and you have a powerhouse system. Like the developer who says, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m., I work on the authentication module for 1 hour. Then texts their partner when they start and finish. Internal structure plus external pressure equals unstoppable. And don't forget environment design. The graphic designer who blocks distracting sites, puts their phone away, and arranges their workspace so everything's ready to go. They've made the right choice, the easy choice. This environmental accountability makes procrastination harder than progress. The truth? Accountability isn't about perfect systems. It's about your systems. Some need public accountability. Others prefer quiet, private commitments. Some thrive on daily check-ins, others on weekly reviews. Some respond to money, others to social praise. Find what clicks, build it into your routine. Our consultant? Months later, they're finishing proposals early. No more panic, no more last-minute scrambles. Because they built accountability systems that make procrastination harder than progress. They celebrate wins with their partner. They follow clear plans. They've designed a workspace that supports focus. And it all started with one choice. Accountability isn't punishment. It's architecture for success, not pressure, but support. Because procrastination isn't a failure of willpower. It's a failure of systems. You can't think, motivate, or discipline your way out. But you can design your way out. You can build your way out. You can create accountability systems that make procrastination impossible. And that's what we'll dive into next. How to build. How to maintain. How to make procrastination a thing of the past. Your future self is counting on you. They're hoping. Chapter 7. The consistency engine that powers unstoppable momentum. Day 1. Fired up. Ready to change everything. The plan feels bulletproof. Day 3. Still motivated. Making progress. This is working. Day 7. Resistance creeps in, but you push through. Day 12. Missed yesterday. That's okay. Back on track today. Day 18. Missed 3 days this week. Feeling guilty. Maybe tomorrow. Day 25. Haven't done anything in a week. This isn't working. Time to try something new. Sound familiar? This is the consistency trap, where most anti-procrastination efforts go to die. Not in dramatic failure, never starting at all, but in slow fade, gradually stopping, letting good intentions erode away. A project manager wants to fix this, reads books, watches videos, sets up elaborate systems, checks email twice a day, works in focused 90-minute blocks, plans every night, promises transformation. For a week, it's amazing. They feel productive, in control, like they finally cracked the code. Then life hits. A crisis disrupts the schedule. A family emergency throws things off. A bad night makes the plan impossible. Instead of adapting, they quit. Instead of adjusting, they give up. Because they confused perfection for progress. Intensity for sustainability. They built a system that only works when everything's perfect and falls apart at the first hiccup. Here's the truth about consistency most people miss. It's not doing the same thing the same way every day, no exceptions. That's rigidity. Rigidity breaks under pressure. Real consistency is persistent direction. Not never falling, but always getting back up. Not same pace, but same commitment. This requires knowing the difference between habits and systems. Habits automate behavior. They run on autopilot, no thinking needed. But habits are fragile. They rely on stable conditions. When life shifts, habits break. That email check habit? Great. Until a meeting collides. Suddenly it doesn't fit. Instead of adjusting, it gets abandoned. Systems, though, they're flexible, adaptable, designed to handle imperfection. A habit says, check email at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. A system says, check email twice a day, 4 hours apart, whenever possible. A habit says, work in 90-minute blocks. A system says, work in focused blocks, adjusted to your energy and schedule. A habit says, plan your day every evening. A system says, plan your day in advance, night before or morning of. Systems guide without rigid rules, give direction without dictatorship. And that flexibility is the secret to long-term consistency. Life is unpredictable. Energy fluctuates. Priorities change. The people consistent for years, not perfect habit followers, adaptive system builders. But building systems means shifting your mindset. Not what's perfect, but what's good enough to keep going when life gets messy. Not designing for your best day, but for your worst. The marketing consultant who struggles with proposals, they don't lock into rigid schedules. They build flexible frameworks. I'll work on proposals 30 minutes, 4 days a week, mornings if I can, otherwise, whenever. This system survives sick days, chaos, and curveballs. Because it's built for persistence, not intensity, sustainability, not perfection, the long game, not sprints. Even the best systems need upkeep. Most fail here. They build great systems, then expect them to run forever without tweaking. But systems are like cars. They need tune-ups, adjustments, refinements. The teacher grading papers, they check their system every month. What's working? What's not? How can I make this easier? They don't wait for collapse. They maintain proactively. This mindset is crucial, because what works in January may not work in June. What fits your current role might not fit the next. What works single might fail with kids. Consistency isn't perfect systems. It's adaptive commitment. The biggest key? Identity. Most try to change behavior without changing how they see themselves. They want to be consistent while still thinking of themselves as inconsistent. But behavior flows from identity. If you see yourself as someone who starts but doesn't finish, that's what you'll do. If you see yourself as unreliable, you'll act unreliably. If you see yourself as undisciplined, you'll behave that way. Consistency builds when you build a consistent identity. You become someone reliable, someone who follows through, someone who does what they say. And that identity grows through small wins. Every promise kept is proof. Every commitment followed is evidence. The software engineer who codes one line a day isn't just building a habit. They're becoming a coder who shows up, a finisher. That identity feeds itself. The more you act consistent, the more you are consistent. This is the consistency engine. Not automatic, not mechanical. Dynamic. Self-building. Stronger over time. But it takes patience. Identity change is slow. Consistency builds little by little. Momentum accumulates. Most quit too soon. Expecting dramatic change in weeks. Wanting big results in months. Getting discouraged when progress is slow. But consistency is like compound interest. Tiny benefits at first, nearly invisible, easy to dismiss. But they stack, multiply, explode. The designer spending 15 minutes every morning organizing doesn't see much at first. 6 months later, noticeably more productive. 1 year, most procrastination triggers gone. 2 years, can't imagine working any other way. Small, steady action creates massive change. Not with heroics. but through persistence. This is the power of the consistency engine. It doesn't demand perfection. It needs persistence. Willingness to keep going when progress feels slow. Commitment to keep direction even when motivation fades. Discipline to trust the process even without instant results. Because consistency isn't perfect. It's persistent. Not never failing, but never quitting. Not constant speed, but steady direction. The project manager stuck in the cycle. They learned systems greater than habits. Designed for imperfection greater than perfection. Maintained systems greater than abandoned them. Built identity with small wins greater than chased dramatic change. 2 years later, they're unstoppable. Not because challenges vanished, but because their consistency engine adapts, handles pressure, gets stronger. This is what's possible with real consistency. Not rigid rules, but flexible commitment. Not perfect habits, but persistent systems. Your consistency engine is ready. Your sustainable systems are waiting. Your long-term success is one small, consistent step away. One flexible system. One identity-building choice. Because consistency isn't perfection. It's persistence. And persistence changes everything. Chapter 8. The integration protocol that makes you truly unstoppable. It's been 6 months since a business consultant decided to stop procrastinating and start living up to their potential. They've learned about the emotional roots of procrastination, broken free from perfectionism paralysis, built momentum through microactions, conquered overwhelm with task archaeology, decoded their brain's resistance patterns, created accountability systems, built consistency engines. And it's working. Sort of. They're definitely more productive. Finishing projects that used to drag on for months. Meeting deadlines that once felt impossible. Feeling more confident and in control. But something's missing. They're juggling different strategies for different problems. Momentum techniques for starting. Overwhelm strategies for big projects. Resistance surfing for tough moments. Accountability systems for deadlines. It feels scattered, disconnected. Like carrying a toolbox full of separate tools instead of running one integrated machine. That's the problem. Overcoming procrastination isn't about mastering isolated techniques. It's about integrating them into a seamless, unified approach to work and life. Becoming someone who doesn't just use anti-procrastination strategies, but embodies anti-procrastination principles. This is the final piece. The integration protocol that turns scattered tactics into unstoppable momentum. Most people treat productivity like a buffet. Pick what appeals in the moment, switch systems based on mood, make endless decisions about what to do next. But decision fatigue is real. And when you're already battling procrastination, the last thing you need is more choices to make. You need simplicity, clarity, one unified approach that works every time. Integration happens at 3 levels: tactical, strategic, and identity. Tactical integration means blending techniques into smooth workflows. You don't use momentum or overwhelm strategies, you use them together. When facing a massive project, you break it down. Task archaeology. Start with the smallest piece, momentum. Surf over distractions, resistance, management, and tap into your accountability system for support. It's not 4 separate tactics. It's one integrated process. The consultant facing a client proposal doesn't wonder which tool to use. They automatically apply the integrated protocol. Break it down, start small, push through resistance, notify their accountability partner. Strategic integration aligns your efforts with what truly matters. Most people get efficient at tasks that don't move their real goals forward. Strategic integration makes your productivity serve your purpose, focusing momentum and consistency on what builds your ideal life. The marketing manager who used to procrastinate realizes they've been busy on tasks that don't advance their career or values. Now they focus their energy where it counts, meaningful projects that move the needle. Identity integration is the deepest level. It's about becoming someone who naturally acts in anti-procrastination ways. No more thinking, I should use momentum techniques. Instead, you are someone who builds momentum. You are someone who moves forward despite resistance. You are someone who follows through. This identity shift is transformative. Anti-procrastination becomes effortless because it's woven into who you are. The software engineer who's integrated these principles doesn't hesitate or strategize. They just start, because that's who they are. How do you reach this? By embodying 5 core principles, action creates clarity. Don't wait for perfect understanding. Start to learn and discover. Progress beats perfection. Choose forward movement over flawless execution. Systems beat motivation. Build structures that carry you forward regardless of mood. Resistance is information, not instruction. Notice discomfort, but don't obey it. Move forward anyway. Consistency compounds. Small, repeated actions build massive results over time. These aren't just ideas. They're ways of being. When you integrate them fully, procrastination fades. Not because you remove resistance, but because you become someone who moves forward despite it. The consultant who started 6 months ago, they no longer think about strategies, they embody principles. They break down projects automatically, push through resistance instinctively, and engage their support systems seamlessly. This isn't about remembering tools. It's about becoming a new kind of person. And that person is you. Becoming more with every small action you take despite hesitation. Every choice for progress over perfection. Every moment you surf over resistance instead of surrendering. Every day you choose consistency over intensity. You're not just learning strategies. You're becoming someone who takes action. Someone who follows through. Someone who gets things done. The scattered tools are becoming a unified system. External techniques are becoming internal principles. And when that integration is complete, procrastination doesn't just become manageable. It becomes irrelevant. Because you naturally move forward. Instinctively take action. Automatically do what needs to be done. This is the ultimate victory. Not forcing yourself to work, but becoming someone who acts because that's who they are. Your integration is already starting. Your unified system is already forming. Your new identity is emerging. The question isn't if you can overcome procrastination. You already are. The question is who you're becoming in the process. And that person is unstoppable. That person gets things done. That person lives up to their potential. That person is you. Integrated, unified, complete. The journey from procrastination to action is ending. The journey from action to identity is beginning. And that journey never ends. Because once you become someone who naturally takes action, you only keep becoming more of that person. Welcome to the other side. Welcome to your integrated self. Welcome to your unstoppable future. The work is done, but the work is just beginning. And that's exactly how it should be. Because you're not just someone who overcame procrastination. You're someone who takes action. And action never stops. It just gets easier. More natural. More you. This is who you are now. This is who you've always been. You just needed to remember. And now you have. The integration is complete. The transformation is real. The future is yours. Go create it. One action at a time. One choice at a time. One moment at a time. Because that's what you do now. That's who you are. And that's who you'll always be. Unstoppable.